Righto, welcome to part 2 of the Black Tank saga. Now, it's been a minute since we tackled this last time. In fact, it's been 6 months, if not a little bit longer. And we've been running with a black tank with no working sensor. Now, that hasn't been too problematic because it's only really been us on the boat over the winter, and we kind of know what our limits are and we know how long it takes to fill a black tank. It's all very predictable and routine. So we haven't really needed the sensor, but we're about to hit the busy summer season. We're about to have heaps of people join us on the boat, so having a working black tank sensor is imperative. There would be nothing worse than an overflowing black tank, as we've already experienced. So we've tried many different ways of resolving this. Up here somewhere will be a link to the video in which we've tried all sorts of different chemicals, all sorts of different solutions, but in the end we've got down to the dirty work. It's time to replace the sensor. So there's no escaping the reality of having to dismantle the tank, take apart all of the connections. We've got to also remove a whole lot of stuff that's in the way, like the wet exhaust for the genset and some water pipes and filters for the forward head. So it's not going to be a small job, and it's been something I've been putting off because I really haven't wanted to do it. But I've got a new sensor. The only way to get it, because it's buried underneath this genset, is to slide the whole tank forward. Right, so this is what we're working with. The black tank is down here underneath the big genset. Right here is the wet exhaust. So this all has to move. These are all the pipes for the black tank. And then underneath down here is a filter for the forward head, water filter, and some pipes. Now these are all going to have to move. You can see here when this was installed, they've marked where this filter goes, because obviously they had to take it out to slide this tank in. They've removed a bit of the bulkhead by the look of it, and this floor plate is a bit janky, so right, so this isn't held on by very much. But it ain't gonna move. And there's water in it. Right, so I've just turned off all of the water, and now we've got water coming out of here. So what we'll do is we need to put some thread tape on that, I'm guessing. So we'll disconnect some of this stuff, because what we've got to do next is remove this pipe. And you can see that someone's removed it in the past in order to get this tank in, and then we can pull this floor up. Righto, so after the last time I took a shortcut and didn't have the right tool on hand for the job and ended up at the hospital with a huge gash in my hand requiring 5 stitches, video over here, I've got the right tools. So I've got a couple of these little things, little snips, specifically for getting in and getting at those very tough, made to last a lifetime cable ties that you used to be able to buy. So I've got one down here. Now I'm not at all going to make the same mistake I did last time. I'm going to use this. So as you can also see, we're slowly just draining out this water. So we're kind of emptying out the remaining water in the line. Snip this bad boy. Gosh, wasn't that easy? No trip to the hospital. But see, these cable ties, they are industrial. So it's no wonder me trying to get through that with a pocket knife. You know, it's healed up okay. Right, that's jammed in there. Right, number 2 out. So before, you know, this was leaking a little bit, and I think it probably needs a little bit of thread tape on it. Now, if I'm doing this all wrong, which potentially I am, feel free to leave me questions, suggestions in the comments, because this is how we learn from the experience of others. It's all well and good just making shit up as you go along, but if someone can point you in the right direction, it's half of the battle. So this needs to come up. Not sure how this is all connected in. Okay, not very well. Righto, I've taken the step out, the support of which is absolutely rotted away. So where this little filter was that was leaking, over time it's just rotted away this whole strut support for the panel that was in here. This side is fine, but I've always wondered why there was so much water in the bilge. And I guess if I tested that, it's probably fresh. I ain't going to test it. So now the job gets a little bit bigger, because we're going to have to replace this support for the step And the step itself has seen better days. So I guess that needs to be replaced as well while I've got the whole thing apart. So as per, one job turns into multiple jobs. So this is one of the joys of having a boat in a commercial port. There's heaps of different services in and around the port, just within walking distance. So right over there behind the catamaran, you'll see a flag flying, ITM. That is the hardware shop. Cool. Time to go spend some money. Right, moment of truth. Will this come out easily? So essentially I've cleared all of the stuff out of the way. I'm just going to try and slide the whole thing forward, but it's quite heavy. It is empty, but it's still quite heavy. Let's go. Alright, so that's about as much as will come out comfortably. Here's my face. When they talk about things being tight in boats, this really is the absolute definition. This has been jammed in so tight that it's taken me a good while to get this out. Like a good while. Kicking from the back, lifting from the front. I've had to disconnect a whole lot of the pipes, so the smell is quite indescribable. When they talk about black tank jobs being the worst ever, I can 100% attest to that. The smell is atrocious. But we're getting there. So the black tank is now somewhat free. I've last little bit and then it's out, and then here is the faulty float switch. So almost there. Woohoo. This has been a struggle. Full day job. It's going to turn into a day and a half perhaps, and into the night. So yeah, wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. So there's some really important lessons to take away here when it comes to looking at purchasing a boat. No matter how experienced you are, there are going to be some things that get overlooked, and this has been an absolute rigmarole. It wouldn't have changed anything for us, but if we were going to install the black tank again, I would make sure that some of the serviceable bits were more easily accessible, like the float sensor. You know, it's always going to fail at some point, and to not be able to access it without a major surgery has been really problematic. And in fact, you know, it's taken 6 to 9 months. I can't even remember when I started tackling this the first time. But we're almost there. Fingers crossed. It's just a simple switch out and plug and play, and we're good to go. Time will tell. This has been a lot longer process than I was anticipating. Free. Woohoo. So a big part of the problem here has been this. So because of this angle, this has been getting jammed all the way through. So it was perhaps meant to be installed at not such an extreme curve, but that's how they did it. So I'm not sure whether or not I can fix that. probably can't without having to redo that whole thing. But again, once I get this underneath here, then I'll be right. Whoo-wee! Time to take the sensor out, I guess. I might move this. Right, learnt this lesson. Heat gun would be better, I guess. Come on. Holy crap. Oh, that's on. That does want to come off. Right, having some problems undoing this, and I don't know why. It doesn't seem to be releasing. So, problem solving. Here we go. Into the tank. That is a smell. Right, so I can see the problem with the sensor. It has disintegrated. But I do not know why. It's not undoing. It's a good resolution so far in that I can see that the sensor float is not probably that functional anymore. Oh, you're kidding. There's freaking screws on the other side of that. There's nuts on the other side of that. Oh wee. Right, so in we go. What a crazy system. So that's going to be really tricky to undo and really tricky to put back together. Right, so this is where life takes a turn. How are we going to do this? I guess we try and use a ratcheting screwdriver. No, I think I'm better off to try and use a ring spanner. Problem solving. So this is the joy of doing this, and this is one of the reasons why we have a boat. So we can problem solve. It's really tricky when you're good at what you do in your professional life. Life sometimes gets a little bit predictable. This is far from predictable. This is the furthest from predictable you could ever imagine. There is an open vent right by my face from our black tank. It is disgusting. Right, so I've managed to get one bolt out, one nut and bolt set, and I've ascertained that fits into a 10mm socket, which makes life a whole lot easier. I've also managed to move this out of the way a little bit with a bit of heat, but still it is really super tricky because not much easier now that I've managed to move that pipe out of the way. Alright, none of this is easy though. It's going to be very difficult putting it back together, that's for sure. And it's a bit odd. I guess it needs to be properly sealed. But these connections here aren't that well sealed. Certainly not to the same degree as this is. This is why we're doing this. Well, this is why I'm doing this. It's creating a whole layer of problem solving. It's physical, it's hands-on, and it really tests your patience sometimes. But at the end of the day, when I've replaced this black tank sensor and everything is working fine, the sense of achievement is going to be palpable. Certainly a lot more palatable than the smell I'm living in right now, which is deeply unpleasant. But this is just one of those things. Sometimes you just have to suck it up to get the job done. Some of these don't have washers on them, which is interesting. I'm guessing whoever installed this, it was difficult for them as well. This access hatch is sharp and not very large, so I've got quite a large forearm and it's not really fitting in that well. And bugger, change of tact. Can't quite get enough room. I think we're kind of at the end of the road as far as movement goes. the end of the day, it's been a long day so far. Everything's tired. So it's all just getting a little bit harder. But I have to push on because I can't leave the tank like this. Oh man, that's tricky. This one is proving to be very uncooperative. And I'm contorted around the gen set. I could just get this. The problem is I can't see. Can only stay in that position for a small amount of time, so it cuts off oxygen because I'm so twisted. Different tool. Yes. Nut and bolt on that one. And here we have it. The tricky sensor. So there's a reason why that's so hard to put in. Holy crap. You've got to remove this bit first. Alright, here we go. Okay, so this is what we're looking at. This is the old sensor, and basically the float was hardly attached. It was tiny and it had dissolved. This is a new sensor, and this is a new float. So this float is much more cohesive, and fingers crossed that's the whole problem. So it's a matter of installing this, chucking it in and wiring it up. So we're halfway there. Right, it's getting dark, so we're losing the sunlight, and might be time for some new batteries in these lights. We're now at the point of installing the new sensor. So I've pre-installed the five bolts. I've given them some CRC to hopefully make that whole process a little bit easier. I've got my washers and nuts on hand. Now it's time to just smash it out, and fingers crossed it all just goes to plan. So I'll install it all back into the holes in which they came. Some have slotted right in. Can't feel any so there's a nub there. Now for the tricky bit. Bugger. Lost the washer. It's not easy, given the angle we're working on. How am I going to do this? What's another washer? This is really not a very easy process. I figure I get the two hardest ones in. Very fiddly. Right. What I didn't want to have happen. Okay. Cleaning mission. Right, round 2. Just going to try and just get one nut in without a washer. It's done up as tight as it will go. I'll try it without. Yeah, the CRC made the world of difference, so I might better get a washer on that one. Yes, success. So first one on, and then I'll just have to tighten it ever so carefully. Nimble fingers. So, managed to get all of the screws, nuts and bolts back into the sensor, which was an absolute mission involving lots of swearing, and it was completely unfilmable because it was an absolute bastard of a job. There we have the sensor in. It's not wired up yet though. So I've closed down the hatch, thank bloody God, because that was just abusive. And now it's time to hose clamp and put all of the hoses back together and slide this behemoth back underneath the generator. Now, if you have watched the whole thing, you would have seen the 0 point clearance between these angled bits of steel. So there's a whole lot of effing and jeffing to go to get that back into place. Stay tuned. Right, this is what 0 clearance looks like. And these knee pads just kill your knees. See, on the way out, I was able to push it from the back, which dropped it down. Maybe this will help. Ow! And back to the knee pads. Status update. I managed to get the tank past that real tight pinch with a bit of ingenuity. So I made a slide out of an ice cream lid to get it beyond that angle iron cross beam thing, and I attached a rope to get extra leverage. So here you can see my little rope that I put around the one of the inlet, the really screwed in tight one, just to really give me some extra pull. And I've managed to get the tank back to here. So there's still a bit to go, and then I've got to somehow manage to reconnect this pipe. We're into day 2 of this job. After reviewing the footage last night and the general disheveled nature of my look, I trimmed my beard up. So that's for continuity in the course of the video. Now, we're just going to give the tanks a bit of a test to make sure that nothing is leaking. Fingers crossed. Right, Hayley, flush the front head, please. Keep going. So there's a bit of an odour, but maybe there always was an odour. It's not the sort of thing that I'm normally got my head in. Right, go to the aft head and do the same thing. It's a bit smelly, but maybe it always was. So this is the best way to see what's going on. Here we go. I can't actually physically see, but I can see with the camera. Go! So let's review that footage and make sure there's no leaks, and then maybe we're good to go. And the best feeling in the world is dun dun dun, a working black tank sensor. So now we know what the level is. Just in time for the summer holidays and an influx of people coming on the boat. So I won't have to be hovering around listening to people flush just to make sure. I can come and check this. And we know the lesson: when it gets to high, it's time to go. We don't hang around for another day just waiting. Is that exciting, Hayley?
Yes. Yay, the toilet works.
So Hayley's
Good work,
not...
David.
Oh, thanks. I saved us thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars doing that myself. And that took 14 hours to get to this point, and there's still a whole lot more to go. I've got to rebuild that step that I took out that was all sort of disintegrating, and then put together the wet exhaust and put back together the water supply for the forward head and shower. So the job is far from finished. At the end of it all, I reckon it's going to be close to 20 hours.
But that's because of the position of the tank.
Yeah, and it would have been much easier if I had have had another set of hands in there willing to really get down and dirty. But yeah, I didn't. So as I go through tidying up and getting ready to do this step, it's a chance to review some of the amazing technologies I employed to get this job done, like this ice cream container. Super interesting. You can see the amount of force right there. That was when I jammed this in and slippery slide down, bent it back so it couldn't go anywhere, but that was just jammed in there. Cool though, that was great. That was a great solve. Next thing, I've got one existing bracket there. I've got to, this is what stopped me in my tracks last night, was drilling into the fiberglass, and drilling through that queiler made a huge racket, and it was after midnight, so I thought that wasn't fair. So I've just got to install that and then cut up my queiler decking and maybe go and get some more, because it's actually quite a wide space compared to how much I've got. Right, let's get into it. Right, time to measure up and we're good. Two and two. Five, 4, 5. Right, so I've got a couple of bits of Quila left over from a hatch renovation project. And that's just too short. So 5, 4, 5 plus we've got to allow for 20 on each side, so 5, 8, 5. G-clamps. Right. It's like a glove. Hello?
Want me to give out the back and sweep, or are you going to be building out there?
I'll be building and making mess. Whew. That's some hard wood. So here we are at the end of the process. All up about 20 hours, I reckon, to get the whole job done. Absolute nightmare, worst job ever that I've done on the boat, but it was one of those things that just really needed to get done, especially as we are preparing for a busy summer with loads of friends coming on the boat, and having a non-functional black tank sensor was an absolute nightmare. and we knew the rate at which we were filling the tank. So having other people on board, the maths was way too complicated. So absolutely brilliant to get that job done. Hope you enjoyed that whole process. If you're still here at the end, thank you very much for watching. Please consider liking and subscribing, and check out our Patreon, which will be in the description as well. We've got several different sort of layers there where you can engage with us a whole lot more. Thank you very much. Safe travels.